or its management.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Muazzam Ali Sandhu. You are watching and listening Revive FM 94.0 live from London. This is our regular Your Voice program, wherein we discuss various issues in relations to different miseries, atrocities, violations of human rights, wherever, whatever is happening against the law. We are trying our best to highlight those issues, to take the attention of the parliamentarians, the authorities, and we also spread the awareness, knowledge, informations, and share the guidelines with our listeners so that they can get benefit of our show. The experts are normally invited into our show, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we have very distinguished guest live from Islamabad, Pakistan, Barrister Needa Salam. She is one of the very vocal barrister, a lawyer, human rights activist, politician, a woman representative, and a media personnel as well. She appears on various national TV channels, morning shows, and also she's greatly performing her role on the ground within the public of the Pakistan, especially in the area of the Kashmir. So please welcome Barrister Needa Salam. Assalamu alaikum. I can't hear your voice. Can you?
Hello, Sidhu. Assalamu alaikum and walaikum salam. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Barrister Needa Salam. You honored us to join our show today. Barrister Needa, we know there are so many things to talk about. There are so many issues: Kashmir politics, recent elections, the very heavy raining season in Islamabad, very heavy flood destroying so many properties of the people. And also, there are so many other issues. But today, I want you to discuss and highlight so many problems the women of Pakistan are facing. And the rest of the issues we will talk another day. I want you to participate in this debate because recently an incident just shaken the whole country. Noor Muqaddam, who was brutally murdered. This is not only the first incident. There are so many incidents happening. So I want you to address those issues the women of Pakistani they are facing, because you are there, you know the problems of the people, you are working amongst the women on the grounds in Kashmir as well as on the different cities of Pakistan. So I want you to highlight those issues the women are facing nowadays in any area of their life, whether they want to become the politicians, they are facing hurdles in order to become empowered. They are facing any hurdles in order to get any job, or they are facing any problems in order to join any specific entrepreneurship. So I want you to discuss these things. So, Barrister Needa, are you there? I think your video is disappeared. So, ladies and gentlemen, there are so many things which the women of the world, this is not the problem of the Pakistan only, the problem of the women are facing by the worldwide. So the women's rights matter, the women's lives matter. Yes, welcome back, Ms. Needa.
Sorry, Sidhu, it was disconnected earlier. That's why the call was dropped. I strongly condemn the murder of Noor Makhdoom. The way the murderer barbarically murdered her, I think for the very first time I've heard like that sort of murder in my life. Like murdering someone, then first of all torturing someone, then murder and beheaded. Like that is the extreme, you know. I strongly condemn that from all perspectives, and I strongly believe that, and would like to request the authorities of Pakistan as well, make sure he should get the harsh sentence, to give the message to the other criminals in the society that if you will commit the same crime, you will be prosecuted, and the consequences will be the same. It is very important to give the very harsh sentence to this murderer, actually. As far as women is concerned, throughout history, the central role of women in society has ensured the stability, progress, and long-term development of nations. Globally, if I consider, women comprise 43% of the world's agricultural labor force, rising to 70% of the world labor force, rising to the 70% of the of some countries. Production comes from small farmers, and most of whom are rural women. Actually, it is widely acceptable that agriculture can be considered as an engine of the growth and poverty reduction in developing nations. Women are the primary caretaker of children and elderly in every country of the world. International studies recently concluded that when the economy and political organizations of a society change, women take the lead in helping the family adjust to new realities and challenges of harsh society. They are likely to be prime initiator of outside assistance and play a very significant role in facilitating changes in family life. So, the contribution of women to society transition from pre-literate to literate likewise is undeniable, and basic education is a key to a nation's ability to develop and achieve stability targets. Recent research shows that education can improve agricultural productivity, enhance the status of girls and women, reduce population growth rate, enhance environmental protection, and widely raise the standard of living. So it is the mother in the family who most often urge children of both genders to attend and stay in school. So I strongly believe that the role of women is at the front end of the chain of improvements, leading to the families, the communities' long-term capacity.
Exactly. Ms. Nida, there are so many stats which is highly alarming when I was going through the crime against women. And I was shocked to read that 5,000 domestic violence murdered in Pakistan happening every year
Okay.
against the woman. And that is such a big figure, big number. So many incidents we heard in the news that we heard a wife has been died due to the burst of the cooker in a kitchen while she was working cooking, but ultimately it was later on acclaimed and accused that it wasn't the accident, it was the murder. What the authorities are doing, what the investigations, police, prosecutions, the parliamentarians, and the other NGOs or any government related organizations are going to make sure the protection of women is ensured.
Sidhu, as far as the violence is concerned in relation to the women, I will not only blame Pakistan in South Asian world.
Yeah,
The system and the culture is same in Bangladesh, in our neighboring countries like India, if I consider Nepal, Sri Lanka, Malaysia. So yes, and if I consider the Western world, violence and in relation to the rights and the laws that protect women, the system is very different. As far as authorities and the lawmaking parliamentarians you just recently referred, I would like to give an example of Zainab rape case in Pakistan.
yeah,
That literally opened the eyes of the parliamentarians in Pakistan. And after that, Zainab Alert Bill was passed. Great. After that, recently, during the administration of the Khan, major reformation in the legal system was brought, and certain proposals are still in discussion, for that to become an act of parliament, actually. So as far as authorities are concerned, I think they're performing their duties in Pakistan. In Pakistan, the culture is very different, which I would like to mention there, which varies from society to society, culture to culture, norm to norm. Violence in any form towards women is unacceptable. Either it's honor killing, either it's murdering someone, either it's acid attack, either it's a domestic violence. Like, I strongly believe that there's no place for violence in society, and there shouldn't be.
Yes, the Punjab Commission on the Status of Women's Figures indicates that in 2017, 746 honor crimes happened. And we
I
believe that,
agree. I agree
and
that
we
the
believe
statistics
that
are very horrifying.
Punjab
Statistics are
is
horrifying.
we consider the Punjab is one of the province which is more advanced, developed in with compared to the other provinces such as Sindh, the rural area of Sindh, KPK, Balochistan, where there is the poverty ratio and education is invisible. The people are facing so many atrocities. The Karakari law in rural area of Sindh and in Balochistan and KPK, there are the jirga systems where they do vani to the little girls. So there's so many atrocities, but this figure, 746 honor crimes just happened
I would like
in
to mention
Punjab.
here, before you will proceed, as you gave the examples of that orthodox principle or wani, in relation to that, Pakistani state strong and Pakistani constitution strongly protect and prefer to protect the right of the women. The reference you gave of the Wani of the Balochistan, that doctrines, orthodox doctrines, actually that is certain orthodox tradition, I believe that. But Pakistan, the state, the constitution, the lawmaking agencies, they condemn child marriage. And I don't think so child marriages are occurring or happening in Pakistan in any manner, actually. Child marriages are not acceptable, and I don't think so. The concept of wani, it used to be in practice back in 70s and 80s and 60s, but in today's time and age, I don't think so. The statistics are quite right.
Exactly, but there are still a huge number of complaints against the forced marriages
Forced
which
marriages.
the women are facing in Pakistan. And do you think that there is any active law or proactive organizations which is giving the protections to those women who are the victim
There
of
are, there
marriages?
are, there are actually. We have complaint cells in Pakistan, and besides in that, forced marriages. And actually, we cannot blame one country in that
No,
old
I'm not
Orthodox
blaming it.
tradition.
No, no,
But
no.
I'm
I'm
generally
not
saying,
blaming it.
and we cannot
I just
bring
want
like
to
as a
highlight
system as well.
exactly. I just want to highlight
The
those
forced,
issues so that
the forced
relevant
marriages, the forced marriages,
authorities
and the
can take
concept of
action.
that is like common in quite most of the Asian world, I believe that. But when it comes to state and lawmaking authorities and the agencies, we have complaint cells in Pakistan that protect women rights. We have human rights organizations here who are always there to protect women and women rights. Recently, I would like to give you an example of Usman Mirza case in Pakistan, on
Okay.
which our authorities, especially the police of Islamabad, played a very important role, and they performed their duties greatly, where the culprits were not only actually arrested, they were produced in front of the court, and definitely the case is moving ahead. And the Prime Minister of Pakistan showed his own personal interest in that case because he strongly believed that rights of the women and the protection for that is the pivotal concern of the state and the current government. So Sidhu, as an individual, as a human rights advocate, as a woman who is quite concerned for the protection of human rights, I have to condemn forced marriages, child marriages, acid attacks, any sort of violence against women. Because I strongly believe that we should protect fundamental human rights, the absolute five rights of an individual living in any society. But the difference between Eastern and Western world is that in Western world the system is very different. The law is into practice, great, and the system is quite advanced in terms of the police, in terms of the complaint cells, in terms of action to take. As you know that restriction orders, probation orders, how they work in the United Kingdom. I hope and expect, with the passage of the time, the third world countries should develop that system to protect the rights of women.
Yes, exactly. The one thing which is very important to discuss here, because this show, the format of this show is your voice. So we always try to highlight the voice of the people, of the community, of anyone who are feeling that their voices are unheard or underrepresented groups of the community. So the reason to highlighting this issue is not to blaming any country. The reason of
Yeah, true,
highlighting this issue is to find a solutions,
true.
to make sure the relevant authorities, uh, these voices should be reached to those forums where the victims cannot be able to take their voice to that forum. So through this channel, through you, we want those people, the relevant authorities who are responsible for the protection of the people, for the protection of the women's, they must take relevant actions, or they must take serious considerations of these values, of these human values and the human rights of the women. So there are another figure which I want to highlight. It is 8,500 complaints in terms of the women harassment has been received online harassment during the year of 2018 to 2019. So there are so much harassment going on. I was watching your show on News. I think it was the morning show. You was very rightly highlighting these things. So I want you to share your knowledge on this. That if anyone is becoming harassed online, any woman, so what actions or what remedies they are available, or what support they have available in Pakistan.
All right. First of all, I would like to condemn harassment, any sort of harassment, either it's verbal, written, or harassment in action, social media harassment towards women. As far as the harassment is concerned, we have the authorities, the concerned authorities, in terms of protection to make a complaint, as FIA in Pakistan, Federal Investigative Agency. We have a cybercrime wing. For the women who strongly believe that they were harassed and they need protection, first of all, they have to go to one of any of that institution, and they have to make a formal complaint. And on that complaint, they have to provide the evidences as well, either it's electronic evidence, it's any sort of evidence through which they believe that they were harassed. On that, FIA usually investigate and take actions. Same like with cybercrime wing, because social media harassment is a very common form of harassment in Pakistan towards women, and like she could be from any part of society or from any profession. That's a very common form of harassment, actually. So these two institutions are working really well, and there are very much cases on that were decided by the highest court of the country as well, where women were giving protection as well. So yeah.
There are so many kinds of harassments. It's not we were just talking about the online harassment, but there are so many kinds of harassments the women are facing in Pakistan. If they are not allowed to do whatever they want to do in terms of joining a profession, selection of their career, selection of their political career, or if they want to move on towards out of a relationship, such as Noor Muqaddam, who
Yeah.
doesn't have a choice who was believed by that killer that she doesn't have a choice to move out of the relationship. And I think these kind of things are highly alarming, that in a man-dominated society, the woman doesn't have a right to enter into a relationship. And once she entered into a relationship, are they not allowed to come out of the relationship? There's so much going on that forum. And according to a statement of the Human Rights Watch organization, they said that 70 to 90% of Pakistani women, they are subjected to the domestic violence. What kind of violence they are? There can be many kind of violence. There can be a slavery, there can be a forcing towards doing certain not doing according to their wishes, any work, any education, any career enhancement, any business, anything which makes the woman empowerment. So do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so as you gave the reference of Noor Muqaddam in relation to it, I strongly believe that public opinion should not be contradict with the personal life of the people. I strongly believe that. And secondly, as far as the statistics you told me, they're very horrifying actually. And I believe that they are true, and the state should be working in relation to that. Um, you know what? According to United Nations Women globally, there are 27 states in which women account for less than 10% of parliamentarians in single or lower house, as of the statistics of the February 2019, including 3 chambers with no women at all. So only for 24.3% of all national parliamentarians were women as of statistics of 2019, as slow increase from 11% in 1995. So in June 2019, women are serving as the head of the state, 12 as serving of the head of the government. So in 103 countries, from across the globe and areas with relevant data, women representation in elected local deliberative bodies varied from less than 1% to the close to parity at 50%, with a median of 26%. The ratio of the female ministers and parliamentarians is highest in America, up to 22% and 26%. Where Europe and African countries were ranked second and third, and Asian ratio is the lowest to 18%. So I strongly believe that women should be given all sorts of opportunities to explore their profession, to live their life according to the human rights, the human rights should be protected, and that's the responsibility of the state. Um, the case of Noor Muqaddam is a unique case in the history of us as a young generation. I strongly believe that this case, opened the eyes of the women and the state and the people living in the society from many different perspectives. And I strongly believe that the government of Pakistan should establish separate women's cells for the complaints and, for visitation in terms of their complaints to make, or for the protection to attain. In Islamabad, they have recently created one women's cell in a very posh sector, a living sector actually, where all the police staff are female, and they deal with the problems of the female, from domestic violence to the professional harassment or to the social harassment. So I was very surprised that after Noor Muqaddam case, how quickly the state responded, and a lot of women came out in a capital in relation to their complaints. It is a job of the state and efficient, competent governments to protect the rights of the individuals in the society, and let the society to be safest place to live. Honestly speaking, after motorway rape case or Noor Muqaddam case, that shattered every single young girl in Pakistan. Those girls who are independent, who are leading their life as an independent, powerful woman. So that case literally shattered and led them to think twice before leaving their house. So the situation is not that bad, but again, these are the alarming situations that, with the passage of the time, it can lead furthermore, and the numbers could be more actually.
Exactly, but Miss Nida, this kind of the case is not the new. We know there are so many acid attacks women has faced when
Mm.
they reject
Yeah.
any of their
Yes.
relationship, then want to come out of the relationship. The man, they feel themselves dishonored or disrespectful, and they try to take a revenge from the failure in their love and relationship, and they make the woman permanently disabled. And there are thousands of women who become the disabled. It's not happened just in Pakistan. It
I
happens
agree. I agree. I agree.
in
But the
many
problem
areas
in the
of the
Eastern
world.
world, look, Sidhu, these are the reported cases you're telling. The problem here is that because of the norms, because of the culture, because of the family honor, a lot of women prefer not to complain. A lot of women prefer not to move ahead, and they suffer violence like for decades and decades. And
I agree with you.
I agree with that point
I agree.
because of
I agree with you on this point. Let's talk about on this point what you just said, that a lot of women don't go to police station for complaint. Why? Because there are so many hurdles for them. They know that they will be facing so much problems, not only within their family but also within the society, and also what problems they will be facing in the police station, or how they will go to the courts. The court system is the court system or the police station investigation is very helpful or very supportive towards the woman. So
you know what
let's talk
you know
about.
what
Yeah.
the western wall, the western let me give you example. United Kingdom is a welfare state, great, and like your state is there to protect you, and if you complain about something, your police is quite established police. If I consider London Metropolitan, Scotland Yard and all that, the problem in Pakistan that women are not as independent as the Western world. It's a patriarchal society. They are dependent either on their parents, like father or brother in opposite gender, or their husbands. Okay, so imagine if a woman, she never stepped out of her house and she doesn't know how to live her life and never earned a penny, and she is a victim of domestic violence. The first question will be in her mind that if I will leave this house, where I will go, where I will live, who will support me financially, so the culture here in Pakistan is very different. Like the traditions, the norms, the values, and the cultures, like the culture, they're quite different. Because most of the time, this is considered as worse, that if your daughter is back to your parents' house or home, after she got married. So. Orthodox traditions literally infringes women's rights in terms of protection and all that.
Yes. What about the issue the women of Pakistan they are facing? It's not only the women of Pakistan. Just talk about women who are facing the harassment at the workplace that make a big hurdle for the families to make a decisions to send their daughter, sister, wife, or mother to make to agree with them to go to work. But due to the harassment at workplace, due to the very congested atmosphere, not friendly atmosphere, due to the problems faced in at the workplace, is actually making the family heads and the family members not to allow their women to go to the workplace.
Okay. The harassment at the workplace, again, I have to strongly condemn at that, because I strongly believe that there shouldn't be any space for harassment, any sort of harassment in relation to a woman. Women face numerous obstacles in achieving and representing in society, and creating an enabling environment is a critical step in addressing gender imbalance in the workplace. But what constitutes an enabling environment will differ from society to society. Likewise, what constitutes a barrier to gender diversity will differ also. As will the method to remove barriers. There is also inadequate knowledge of written and unwritten rules protecting women's political and social rights. So, if I discuss economic participation, the main problems are women's employment in rural areas, the low level of women employment in urban areas, unregistered employment, the huge wage gap, exclusion from social security, male dominated structures of the Eastern world, of unions excluding women, preschool education, and enrollment rates to help promote women participation in the workforce through improved childcare services. So the female employment rate remained very low at 13%, 31% in 2013, although it was up by 1% in the same year. Despite the low proportion of the female population actively looking for work, the female unemployment rate is higher than the male. In addition, about one third of women who are employed are unpaid family workers in the agriculture sector. So the main problem is that how independent is a woman in your society. The more the woman is independent, there are more chances that she will learn how to say no towards violence, towards harassment, because financial independence plays a very important role for you to be able to survive in society in a patriarchal world. In a male-dominated society, it's a very tough.
Exactly. I refer to one of the incident what happened here in London last year. The Sarah Everard, she was killed. She was kidnapped first when she was walking home in the West London street at night time. Not night time. You can say 9 o'clock in the evening, and
Okay.
she was walking home. She was kidnapped by a police officer, and who later on killed her and disposed of her body into a forest. And later on, the investigations ongoing, and there was very intensive and extensive search for Sarah Ward. Her body was found, and the victim was accused person. The killer was arrested, who was recently prosecuted and convicted and sentenced by the court after pleaded guilty. So this incident, the protection for women is not. For the issue of the underdeveloping countries. This is an issue of the developed country as well. We heard recently in London there is a park, Goodmayes Park in East London. There was a woman, a young teenage girl who was walking, doing exercise at the evening time when she was also grabbed into the bushes and raped 2 times. That person, the criminal, was also arrested and prosecuted accordingly. And a very big and great message was given to all those criminals that if you are involved such kind of criminal activities, any crime against the woman, zero tolerance. They must be prosecuted. We want the same kind of the justice in Pakistan.
I agree. I agree that as you gave the references of these two cases, I strongly agree that. But you know, Sidhu, what I want to make a point here, I want to distinguish that in Western world, look, the law prevailed. Great that people were prosecuted. In Pakistan, the system is very slow. The prosecution, the system is the legal system itself is very slow. It takes years and years in prosecution. Again. In terms of the evidence to collect and to bring that evidence in the court of law without manipulations is another very important aspect for the offender to be prosecuted actually. So there are a lot of loopholes. The system is very slow, the legal system, the police system, and all that. You know, I would like to connect your point with mental health as well, because recent Noor Makhdoom case, there was one impression given by the murderer family that he was taking mental health therapies, he was mentally unfit, that's why he has committed that crime. So I strongly believe that in nowadays, for the young generation to and the mental well-being plays a very important role in terms of spending their life in society. So I wish and hope that one day we will have the advanced system where we will see prosecutions, in a row, and offenders to be held liable and accountable for their crimes.
Exactly. Let's talk about the issue you just raised, the collection of the evidence for the police. I agree. When in Pakistan, any criminals, when they're arrested, the prosecution needs to establish that he is the actually criminal who committed a crime, and the prosecutions need to establish that there are sufficient evidences, including the eyewitnesses, who can prove that, and the accused person can be tried before the trial court and before the court of law that he actually committed that crime. In Pakistan, the biggest issue is the witnesses. There's so much social pressure. The criminals are very proactive. They're strong people. They may have a support from different
Financial,
backgrounds, financially, or the political
politically.
support, or any influential, and they make the prosecutions slower to prosecute them, or easily mislead the court or mislead the prosecutions, or they can redirect the witnesses or influence the witnesses, or which will
You
badly
know,
affect the
in
case.
Eastern world, in Asian countries, to get away with a crime is easy as compared to the Western world because of the laid back system. And I strongly believe that now is the time to bring an improvement. Now is the time to bring a change for your next generation to be protected from these criminals. And there should be harsh sentencing to give a great message to to the world and to your own people, that an eye for an eye concept. You know, harsh cases makes bad law.
Yes, I agree with you that when you say that this is the need of the time to make the changes in the criminal procedure code. When we say that changes, can we not rely on the latest technologies such as fingerprints, DNA reports, these things in order to prosecute a criminal, or we still the law still need eyewitnesses who can prove that yes, the crime has been committed and these people have seen that.
You know, this era is an era of technology, and I strongly believe that in Asian world, especially in Pakistan, the government should focus on technology and to bring these new latest systems like fingerprints, eye retina test. You know, you can say the DNA test centers. I think we have only one DNA test center that is in Punjab, that is in Lahore. I think they always send samples from Islamabad to Lahore for DNA test and all that. But we have to understand that we are a poor country, you know, and the
But
population and other problems in this country. It takes
technology,
time.
yeah, I understand that being a developing countries, there are so many challenges for the developing countries, so many problems or issues of sources and resources for the developing countries. But at the same time, we have very strong forces. We have very strong institutions who are the law enforcement agencies who are doing great work in different sectors. So why not we can get help from their technologies, their support, and also why the Pakistani government and the law enforcement agencies are not taking the full advantage of CCTV. In UK, there are over 50
Yes,
million CCTV installed by
CCTV.
the government,
Yes,
and it is a survey report suggested that and confirmed that every man or anyone, any individual who come out of their house, go to supermarket, come back, that person's in average 45 time comes under the CCTV.
yeah, true, very true. Even London, you know, like London is full of CCTVs, like from central London to east, north, south, west, and all. And you feel as a woman, you feel protected. You know what? I really want that system in my country as well. We have a CCTV system, but only in a red zone areas or on highways or motorways, but not at every corner of the city or the town. I think the government of Pakistan should work on that in terms of protection of women, and not only for the installation of the CCTV is important, but make sure that the CCTV should work as well.
Exactly.
I would like to
And
give
the
a
street light.
reference.
And the
I would
street
like
light.
Yes, street lights. I would like to give a reference of the daughter of an ambassador in Afghanistan who recently claimed that she was kidnapped in Pakistan, and all her drama was or her drama opened up through an evidence of CCTV that she traveled from her home and changed three taxis, and she was not kidnapped. So, but that CCTV was installed only on the highway, or nearby supermarkets. I hope one day we will have that facility as well in terms of the protection of the women. And I think that advanced system, the institutions of Pakistan, the competent institutions, they should help with the betterment of the society. But again, Sidhu, I have to mention here that we are a poor country, we are a developing country, and that advancements are essential. But again, it will take a time to bring. But you know what? I really want. women help centers in every city of Pakistan. Like if you have any complaint in relation to anything, you can easily make a complaint. You can easily go to that help centers, and your matter should be sorted out. I really want and request to the government of Pakistan to think about it, and make institutions like that for the women to be protected.
Exactly. One question which just come to my mind, being a lawyer, we see that when there is a law, when there is a protection, and when there is any remedy available for victim, there are also so much misuse of those laws, misuse of those remedies, and misuse of those rights. And we've seen that there are so many false claims and false accusations against men
Yes.
by different women who are taking any family revenge or any other revenge from them. So in terms of making sure that every single complaint and every single accusation is properly tried, a woman need to come forward, and the government need to be act proactively along with the evidences. And I think the CCTV can play a great role, as you mentioned in your example, that one drama was unfolded untrue. There are so many things are happening.
And satellite images as well, because in the UK, you know that system, how efficient is the system and most admiring system we have there. Satellite images that played a very important role in terms of prosecution and evidences, to bring into the court of law.
All right. Okay. So, Miss Nida, I want you to share that in terms of giving the equal rights to the women on the floor of the parliament, or the equal job opportunities in the government sectors, joining the forces, becoming a pilot, equal opportunity for business entrepreneurship. Do you really think that the Pakistani women having the equal opportunities? You are woman, you are standing on the ground in the Pakistan, actively involved in politics, in and providing the legal services, and you're very greatly connected with the vast majority of women. Do you really think that the women are happy about the equal opportunities they're having there?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. I think so. They do have equal opportunities to flourish in their lives in society. You can see the women who are progressing in different professions, from medical to the legal profession. Our women are serving in army as well, from engineering to the squadron leaders. You can say that we have seen women like as an army surgeon, army doctors, and in civilian as well. You know what, now the time has changed, because education and protection of the human rights and exercising human rights plays a very important role for the progression of the society. So I'm very satisfied as a woman in terms of having the rights, in terms of to choose a profession. Yeah. And I'm my biggest example that who is living here, and I'm highly independent from all perspectives. I travel across the globe every year, that different parts of the world as a hobby, and yeah, I think there are no restrictions like that.
I think the 50% of the women of the Pakistani population, and they are not having the equal proportionally representation on the parliamentary floor or in the local governments.
Yes, that need to be changed. That need to be changed. I strongly believe that the seats of the women should be increased. Because that I strongly believe that women is the backbone of the society, and if she will have opportunities to represent, either in parliament, either in a legal profession, in a medical profession, in an army. Like she can protect and she can give a message to other women that this is a safest place for you as a profession to choose and to move ahead. So as far as you give the reference of the parliament, I strongly believe that more seats should be given to them, and judiciary as well. We do have a woman as a practicing lawyer, human rights advocates, but when it comes to judges, the numbers and the ratio is very less. And in Britain as well, if you consider women in terms of the judiciary, but we had a woman, if you remember, Lady Hale. you
Exactly.
know
Yes.
Lady Hale, the most inspired woman in legal profession and in judiciary in England. So I really want women in Pakistan should be given that sort of opportunities, and should be accommodated in judiciary as well.
Exactly. So, do you recommend any suggestions for the parliamentarians and the policymakers that how the women's voice can be heard proportionally and equally with the other members of the society?
Yes, true. I agree. I'm going to give you one statement on that. Despite the challenges women are facing in today's time and age, women activism and advocacy, education of women, positivity on the part of successive government towards women empowerment, and interest of women to participation in politics is getting a lot of positive energy. The time has changed, the era has changed, and it is very important to accommodate your women for the betterment of the society, for the betterment of the next generation. This is an indication that the participation of women in politics has a bright future. Therefore, the relevant stakeholders are advised to advocate for the protection of women from abuse, empower them economically, politically, and review the necessary legislation to accommodate the growing interest of women in politics, both elective and appointive positions. You know what to do? We cannot build a world which is livable if it walks only on one foot, continuing to neglect by obscure prejudice. 50% of the talent, skill, and energy is available, and women throughout the world serve as a powerful catalyst for change, and their immense talent, skill, and entrepreneurial spirit is an incredible source that should be tapped, that should be used for the betterment of the society, for the prosperity, developed and leveraged for all overall benefit and advancement of societies. So they should be given equal opportunities in terms to represent in parliament, in terms to lead in profession and in their personal lives as well. And I strongly condemn Noor Makdoum case. I strongly condemn violence against women. I strongly condemn acid attack, child marriage, child abuse.
Forced
You
marriage.
know, girls' child abuse. I'm referring to.
Exactly, yes. Lastly, when we say that the equal opportunities, I think the male listeners will not become the prejudice of my this point, because most of the women who are in a race against the men to get an opportunity, the men doesn't have to do any house chores, any work, domestic related works, but the women's, they equally, if they are in a politics, they equally need to do their home chores. Then they need to do cleaning, cooking, washing, uh,
Dual job,
uh,
dual
so
job,
many
dual
jobs, looking
workload.
after the kids, looking after the husband, looking after the parents, looking after the guest as well. With any visitor, they need to make sure that any visitor must be properly hospital served, food, anything. So these kind of the things are, don't you think that these kind of the things are the biggest hurdles for a woman with compared to the men, because the men doesn't need to do any of these works and they are free to go out, spend most of their times in the field, and the women need to make sure that the domestic chores and domestic works also need to be maintained.
When you gave a reference of all these works and all that, it reminded me Margaret Thatcher era. It reminded me 80s and 70s history, and how, Thatcher as a strong woman stood for other women and their rights and spoke high always. Um, the system in Western world is different nowadays. The time has changed. Men and women both have to work together for the survival and the betterment of the society and of their home and the family life and the marital life. I strongly agree that women do face double burden, dual burden, a burden of household chores and burden of the society as well, picking up the kids from the school, cooking, cleaning, and all that. On one hand, on other hand. I think that now the time has changed. If you consider the young married couples, both are working, both have to work together. If one is cleaning, other have to, cook. If they're going out on weekend for a dinner or a movie, they have to cook together. They have to clean together. So that's the system, the vehicle of the life, or the wheel of the life. This is the way to move ahead with.
Exactly. I just want to, it just reminded me very funny thing. During the lockdown, I shared one video on social media when I
Oh,
was,
I saw that you were
uh,
cooking and all that. You were serving the family,
I
and
was,
you showed
I
a very good message that you're a family person, family man, and looking after
was,
your
I was
partner, your
washing the dishes.
children.
I was washing the dishes as well, and
Yes, I saw that.
so many people appreciate it, but large number of my friends and the
They
different
criticized you. I saw
criticize, oh my
that.
God, why you did that? Don't advocate us to do the same things.
Yeah, because
That's the
in
woman
Pakistan, if I give example of Pakistan, in Pakistan, men are very very lazy. Sorry to say that. They are very lazy. I've seen and experienced and observed here. They prefer not to do any sort of household chore, actually, but they're that lazy. To fetch a glass of water for them is a big deal. But in England, as you're aware that you have to work together as a
I
partners
think, I
to have
think
a beautiful life.
let me defend the lawyer, the men's here, because I'm the only man in the show. Because you just attacked on men. They're lazy. They're not lazy. They
This
they
is against tradition
They,
and the
they,
norms.
no, no, they said their variant is that they remain so much busy out of their house to make sure the house system is properly supported by finance, economically running. They are
Agreed.
they're spending so much time outside of the house, staying outside, doing hard works, doing their lot of efforts to earn money in order to support the family. And they said that when we came home, we need little relax, and we need
They
we
always watch Man United
we,
matches, Barcelona
we must
matches.
appreciate that. We must appreciate that when they are working outside. He might be a laborer, he might be a builder who is holding a very heavyweight stuff and moving around, loading, unloading these things. There's so much
Yeah.
work men need to do. So when they
Sidhu, I strongly believe that for a prosperous and happy and beautiful life, both partners should work together. I have a very good friend. I would like to give an example. They are both working couple. They work Monday to Friday, and on Fridays they go out for dinner. Saturdays they go to the in-laws, and Sundays to the in-laws of the guy. Actually, so they have a very good system where they cooperate together. And whenever they go for holidays, one partner pay for holidays, another pay for shopping and all. So now the world and the system is quite different than 60s and 70s. You have to cooperate with each other as a partners to be able to survive,
yes,
and to have a beautiful relation to survive as well.
and the Pakistani man try to treat their woman like a queen. He said
Yes.
the queen don't
Yes.
need to go outside of the house. The man
They
need
have
to
a lot of facilities that, in
all
Pakistan,
the
they have servants, they have vehicles, drivers,
paid.
chauffeurs.
Yes, and also the man wish that he is the man who is responsible for all the finances. He take the burden and responsibility of on his shoulders to make sure all the tuition fees, all the school fees of the kids must be paid in time, all the bills need to pay in time, all the groceries need to be filled in the kitchen. They have essentials. He need to make sure that every single need of the family is fulfilled.
It's not only Pakistani men. I think it's Asian men. It's men in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, especially Pakistan as well. I'll say they do treat the women like a princesses or queen, no doubt in that. In terms of facilitation, in terms of making sure that they do get all the comfort of the life, and they prefer to facilitate and have a good
And when
relation.
when he came home, he wanted to be treated as a king.
Okay, and not to be bugged to help to help in household work.
Exactly. And he wanted to be treated as a king because he spent
He
more.
earns money, yeah, and spends.
He not only earns money, he provides every single need to the whole family, including the social security protections, the shelter on the family as the head of the family, and so many other benefits of that. I
Agreed,
believe.
agreed, I agreed. But lazy, I would like to mention, I referred in terms of not helping in kitchen.
No, I
Yeah,
know.
so they're lazy just in that context.
Yeah, we take it as a joke.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Barrister Needa Salam. Today's debate and conversation is really beneficial for
Thank you,
many of
Sidhu.
our listeners. We highlighted many of the issues, the women's, not only the Pakistan, but also the subcontinent and also the worldwide, who are facing so many issues and problems. And I hope that all of the recommendations, suggestions, advices will be followed by many of the women who don't know their rights. We will continue these sessions again, and I want you to highlight about the women's human rights, and I want to our listeners to get more educations about their rights through you, as I appreciate your knowledge in terms of the legal experts, in terms of the writer and a vocal person and a representative of the woman.
Sidhu, you know what? I would like to say at last that to all the young girls and women that learn how to say no. Where you believe that something is hurting your comfort zone and you are not comfortable with anything, just say no to that initially. Because the reason for that, don't be late in terms of protection of your rights. It's always my pleasure and privilege to be in your show, and it was always great discussion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nida, and hope you enjoyed the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you want to advertise